Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, November 24th, 2015. This is the Fairmont Area School Board meeting. Our roll call this evening is all 6 members of our board are present. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving along, we're going to look at the minutes of our last meeting, which was held on November 10th. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
I have, and I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have a motion by Dan, second by Nicole to approve the November 10th, 2015 school board meeting minutes as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then if you should have a green agenda, which is an updated agenda, and I have no additions or corrections to that. Does anyone else have anything on that agenda? I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the presented agenda tonight.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have a motion by Julie, second by Nicole to approve the November 24th, 2015 school board meeting agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well, we're going to move right to the celebrations and school community reports. And this evening we have Mr. Trado here to talk about the FAST program. And then after Mr. Trado, there's going to be something about a video club, and then he'll introduce those people, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you. Good evening.
Yep, good evening. As always, thank you for inviting us to be a part of the board session tonight. It's always fun for us as school administrators to share some of the fun things and positive things that we're doing in our school. One of the things that we have implemented this year into our schedule is Fairmont Academic Support Time, which also is called FAST for short. When we put it into place, we designed it to be a positive, proactive approach for everyone in our building to really help students be successful. And it goes right along with the continued growth mindset that we continue to preach to our students and staff and our faculty to continually work to help everyone improve in whatever ways that we possibly can. Some of our goals in the beginning with academic support time have been to increase academic practice completion or assignment completion for our students, to improve student confidence through academic practice and having more time with their teachers. To reduce, our long-term goal is to reduce the number of course failures and increase the amount of success our students are having so that they're able to take upper level classes and free some of their schedules for more electives down the road. And then also it has helped to increase teacher communication with students and families. It's put us on a definite schedule for some of that communication to take place. That has always been in place. It's just increased some of that in communication along the way. And so far, you know, at the junior senior high school, we are experiencing students of all abilities taking advantage of academic support time. Our first session that we held on September 22nd, we had about 35% of our students that were referred to academic support time by our school personnel. And with 3 weeks into the school year, that's approximately what we would have expected at that time. That does not include students that took the initiative on their own to come in to also get it or take advantage of that increased access to their teachers. The last 3 sessions, one of which was today, we've experienced approximately 50% of our students that have been invited by their teachers to attend to receive some increased academic support time. So many of our students are taking advantage of that, as well as I mentioned, the students that are not required to attend are also taking advantage of that time. So we just ended Q1 approximately just over a week ago, and we've had the chance to start looking into some of our data. And what some of our Q1 reports indicate are some positive trends in student achievement, work completion, and students exhibiting an increased awareness of where they are in their learning practice. And our current data demonstrates that there's a 19% reduction of students in grades 10 through 12 on our quarterly deficiency report. So what that means is students that last year were in attendance in our building in grades 9, 10, and 11, those exact same student groups this year in quarter one last year as compared to quarter one this year, there is a 19% decrease, which is a positive correlation in terms of number of students that we look at in terms of needing some increased academic support. Our data also demonstrates some of the challenges our students face when transitioning to their credit-bearing years as ninth graders. And this information will cause us to continue to reflect on our current practices moving forward to ensure we have the appropriate resources allocated in place to help our students be successful in their high school years and begin those years on a positive note. We do have several more days of academic support time coming up. They are noted in the school newsletter, which will be coming out soon. It was in the last school newsletter as well as the upcoming one for parents or anyone wondering when those times are coming up. Another thing is the initiative has been a learning process, and we are continually working to improve. The educational professionals in our building have been absolutely amazing to work with. Their feedback has been very positive, and we've always taken that. And I commend all of them on their professionalism that they've shown in helping us make this a product that students can really take advantage of. And one of the things, as we get to be about the building during this time, it is exciting to see our teachers interacting and working with students and developing things that they're able to have access to during this time. Some activities that students are able to take advantage of during our academic support time. Some students have taken advantage of increased opportunities to meet with some of our office staff, our guidance counselors, our school social worker, our dean of students, principals, school nurse included, as well as others that they can schedule sometimes in there that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to because they have full schedules or whatever their circumstances may be. We also have our gymnasium open during that time for students once they have made up their learning practice that needs to be continued, or students that have received a pass indicating that their school day can start at 10:20 a.m. come in early to enjoy some time in the gym exercising, as well as our commons area is open for students to engage in conversation with each other. Initially, students were playing board games and such in that area, as well as our media center is open as a quiet place for students to read. And Mrs. Pyman has done a great job of organizing that area during that time. Some things that as we've gone and really grown and tried to make this the most positive experience as possible is one, during academic support time, we have dedicated some focus areas, and one of those is a writing center which is held in Mr. Sturdy's classroom during that time for students that need additional help in some of their writing procedures for their various classes. One exciting addition that we're going to be making at our December 15th academic support time is we're going to be opening up a maker space on the second floor of the east wing of our high school. We are using some of the Lego robotics materials and different building sets that we have in there, as well as we have sought donations within our staff for any leftover Lego materials they might have at home from young ones that have moved on, to have some creative free creation space as well for them. And we only look to continue to grow that program with the potential addition of Minecraft EDU to develop some of that coding with some gaming skills that a lot of our students are interested in. Mr. Brad Haugen is going to be helping initiate that in a classroom that's connected to his current classroom, and we will as well be seeking some guidance from our senior high level students that are involved in our robotics program. So that's an exciting addition that we have coming up. Another thing that's been student initiated, and I'm going to let some of them speak to that here right now, is some of our students came to us early on with the idea of starting a video game club, and they have really taken the initiative to that. I'm not going to take any credit for that. They came up with the idea and the structure and have really worked within the requirements of our school and really made it a positive experience that continues to grow in popularity. And has really gone beyond the video game club. I heard cheers down the hallway after school today because our kids were playing a board game together, and it's just fun to see students interacting. And Mr. Chris Sturdy has volunteered his time to supervise that on those after-school times, and I'm going to invite Mr. Sturdy, as well as some of our students that have taken part in that to discuss what that has meant for them and what they see as a future for growing that program.
Mr. Trado, before you go
Yeah.
on, would you explain to the school board about the process you use to qualify people who get a pass?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things in terms of the feedback that we got from our teaching professionals in our building was for them to have the autonomy to refer students academically that they would like to work with. Both students that need additional academic support or students that may have an upcoming exam or assessment that they would like some additional time to work with them. So when our teachers look at that, any students that have any missing learning practice or missing assignments are asked to come in to work to complete that, as well as any students that are earning anywhere below a 70% in any class would be asked to come in during that time to get some increased academic support. And then I would say, the citizenship piece of what we expect of our students also plays into that. They do need to be in good standing across the board within our building to earn a fast pass, as we are calling it, and earn the right to start their school day at 10:20 every 3 weeks.
Andy, I had one quick question.
Yep.
I attended one Fast Pass a couple months ago, not because I was deficient,
Sure.
You were invited.
but to help out in one of the math classes. And a couple things. I observed that, that there's a lot of kids coming and going, and oftentimes, the teacher may be overwhelmed with, the request for aid. Tied to that is, I observed that some of the teachers they had some of their own students or students from upper classes coming in to help tutor. And so I know that this is happening on an individual basis with some teachers. Has there been any thought to trying to make that more of a systemized or a generalized process to try to recruit, kids to help their peers during that time?
Yeah, you bring up a great point. And from the inception of this idea, we really encouraged our staff to work together to collaborate. Some teachers might experience more traffic during that time as others. The student component that you mentioned is something that we definitely need to take a look at growing in the future. As you mentioned, some students taking that initiative. But I do think that is something that we can continue to improve to make that more visible as a possibility for students to come in to help their peers during that time, because sometimes they learn the best from each other and from each other's challenges that they face in the classroom. So thank you for bringing that point up, that some of our students are already doing that on their own, but I think that's an area we can improve in and just continuing to promote that as a possibility for our kids.
Thanks. I think it'd be a great idea.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Trado? Okay.
All right,
thanks.
with that, I'll bring up Mr. Sturdy and our student representatives from the Video Game Club to share a little more information on what they're doing with that program.
Thank you, Mr. Trado. Thank you for having us here tonight. As he said, my name is Chris Sturdy. I teach high school here, English at the building. And with me today, we have some people. We have Julia Okerman, who is our president of the Video Game Club. We have our chairman of the Tabletop Committee, Quentin Young, and vice chair, hiding back there, we have Coleman Peterson of the Tabletop Committee. A couple weeks ago, well, actually more than a couple weeks ago, it's been a while now. Weeks ago, a small group of students came up to me and approached me about being the advisor for the Video Game Club. I was finishing up the soccer season at that point, still quite overwhelmed, so I said, can we just table this for a moment as I finish up my season? And then when it was over, we got things going. Julia was part of that, and we just said we would meet certain nights. Tuesday, Thursday is what we have right now. We also meet during Fast Pass time. And we talked about it with the administration, we got things rolling, and now it just has become, I want to say that it's become bigger than I was expecting it to become originally. And by no means overwhelming. It's wonderful. Our current number is 26 students and roughly 4 teachers are involved on a regular basis. Thank you, Quentin. Tuesdays we play video games. Thursdays we play tabletop games, which are your board games or dice-based games. And so it's been a pleasure to just be the advisor for these kids. I want to point out that when it comes to the power structure, I am not necessarily at the wheel here. I'm definitely, the kids are the ones that are stepping up and just taking the initiative to dictate, what do we want to do? Are we happy with Tuesday, Thursday? Do we want to have events coming up? Where are we going with this? How big can this get? And so they really do have a positive amount of power in the decision-making process for where this could go in the future. So to talk a little bit about our projection for the future as well as things that are currently happening right now, I'd like to pass it off to our president, Julia Okerman.
Hi. So
Can you
some
just pull the
things-
microphone? There you go. Thank
Some
you.
things we've been thinking about doing is involving not just the members of the club, but reaching out to all the kids in the school. And we're kind of planning different like fundraisers and events that we can do in the school. And one of our ideas has been to have a movie night to invite students to come and just watch movies and have a good time together. And in the future, we would even like to go so far as to do charities. I know there's some where you play video games for 24 hours to raise money for a certain charity. And I think that would be something really cool for us to get involved in, to show that we're not just people who hole up in our parents' basements and play games by ourselves. So that we want to kind of have community and do things together and get involved. So
So does everybody play the same game, or you're all, like, is it like a community kind of game where you're tied into all the group as well as other
yeah,
people?
sort of. We actually have usually 3 to 4 TVs going with different systems on them, and we usually have multiplayer games. Like one example is a game called Super Smash Bros, where you pick characters and you kind of battle against each other to see who's the best. Or we play Mario Kart and race against each other, and just kind of multiplayer games like that are really
Okay.
fun, and I don't know, we interact with each other that way.
Okay.
So
And board games?
yes.
You don't usually play a board game by yourself. I've never tried that, but usually you want to compete with
Yeah.
someone on that. Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of do that, and that's kind of more Quentin's thing. You want to talk about that?
So what board games do you play, Julia?
Or video.
Or what are the board games that you play?
Well, we play, right now we have a game of Risk going, so we
Risk?
kind of
Yeah.
do that a little bit. We play Catan. I think today they played just kind of fun games like Fact or Crap, or they play Stratego and more stuff like that. And that's more Quentin's area. I'll let him take
Okay.
that over.
I got it's a little more, a little short.
There you go.
So, yeah, Thursdays we get together. Tuesdays is video games with them. But Thursdays we get together and we play board games such as chess, Risk, Catan, which is kind of like Monopoly but more feudal and more resource-based. We also play Monopoly. We also play pen and paper or dice rolling games such as Dungeons and Dragons, kind of to prove as that there was a stereotype set by it that is a negative towards it, and I wanted to prove that it's more helpful towards students, such that it would help with reading, listening, and creativity skills, because you have to think in the moment what you're going to do, and we try to encourage to be creative in that process. Besides that, we try to get as many people to come there as often by advertising more board games and encouraging people to bring more board games that they want.
So you bring board games from home. You bring whatever you want.
Yes.
So that's what I was going to ask too. Is like, so how do you just invite your friends? It's
Yeah.
word of mouth kind of thing, or how do you? What's your
Yeah,
marketing?
We it's a lot of just word of mouth. Julia here made some posters before our first meeting. We do also make sure that students stay on FastPass days, that they stay at the FastPass requirements. If they need to be at a teacher, we don't allow them to come in and play. We want students to stay up. We don't want them to be failing class. We want them to be able to get their homework done. I try to keep my part where no detentions. I don't know if that's club rule or not. But,
Well, you'll work at that
Yeah.
as the time goes on, won't
Yeah,
you, to make,
definitely.
until you know what you don't know, you just have to go have a start somewhere, so very good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
What time do you folks play?
Fast Pass days, right when school starts, even for kids who get there early, so around 7:30, 8 o'clock around there.
What Thursday nights? What
Thursday
time?
nights, Tuesday and Thursday nights, not on Fast Pass days. We start at res when school ends. We just meet in a certain classroom. We get stuff set up. We start gaming then. Sometimes we talk for a little while. Sometimes we have kids splinter off and play board games or play on a different game system, or they'll go into their pre-assigned groups.
Or is it like for an hour? Because I know Monopoly takes way longer than 1
Yeah.
hour to play.
Yeah, we usually get out around 5.
Oh,
Sometimes we've gone a little longer with larger groups
mhm.
till about 5:30, but most of the time it's about 5.
Well, nobody in my family will play Monopoly with me anymore because some suggest I might be a little aggressive. But if I bring my own Monopoly game on Thursday night, do you think somebody will play?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I'm in.
All right. Yeah, we don't encourage just students to play. We want teachers to play. We've invited several teachers, some of which who have come just for like free popcorn. But
Oh, I see.
other than that, we just want everyone to come and play.
I'll just let you know the Monopoly night will be much longer if he's playing, okay? Just saying.
So,
Alright.
so have you had anything where you have like a group discussion, like maybe is there like any opportunity to play like maybe new games that have just come out, where you have a discussion of, well, I like this about this particular game, or do you have any kind of breakdown when it's over with, or have you had any?
Are you talking about like board games and tabletop games, or
Either
video games?
or, either or.
I know right now we have kids who bring in their own video game systems and their own board games. So we kind of just work with whatever games we can bring for those. Right now we have a PlayStation 2 that I normally bring in. Cole Peterson has brought in his Xbox 360 for us to use. We play only T-rated games for that because rated M would just be distasteful for our younger players. But if someone has a new board game or a new-ish game for one of our consoles, we definitely want them to bring it up. And if people want to play it, we allow them to play it.
Does the vice president want to share anything?
Vice Chair?
Vice chair? He said, I'm good. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, we like to give you a chance if you had something to add there, so, yeah.
I just want to point out, like, not everyone knows a lot about Dungeons and Dragons, and I think Quentin did a nice job explaining it, but just to point out one more thing, that you always have somebody that is in charge of, like, how the game works, and you call that person, in a sense, the game master. Quentin is one of them when we have 2 other students who run it, so we have students leading other students, and then I also get to be along for the ride, and it's fun to just see them be the teacher in the moment. So it's been a great couple weeks so far. It's going to be a great school year, I can tell, and we just kind of got green-lighted for a fund that we're going to start hopefully getting money into so we can have our events and hopefully do this charity stuff that Julia kind of told you about. So, any other questions?
Instead of like having a school dance, you could have like a game night.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, do you ever have school dances anymore, once in a while? So there's another option, or
Are they
The
just
people
high
who don't like
school
dance.
kids that are in the group right now?
9 through 12.
Okay.
Yep. So,
very cool.
all right. Well,
All
thank
right,
you.
Vice Chair, last call. Last chance to say something. No? Okay.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
All right, thanks for coming. Thanks for sharing with us. Good luck on that, too, especially with Mr. Brown playing Monopoly with you. You'll have to come back and report on that. All right.
It's not a Chicago Bears Monopoly game, is it?
No.
Oh,
it's
good.
The old-fashioned one.
Okay, good.
It's got the iron and everything.
Oh, boy. All right.
Coleman was one of the students we took down to see Governor Bush.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we'll move along to the superintendent's report and calendar. Superintendent
Yep,
Brown?
Thank you. First of all, the school calendar, kind of short because of the holiday season coming up, but just a reminder that looking ahead at next month, Thursday, December 10th, we will have an Operations Committee meeting at 2 o'clock. That's not on your pink sheet, but it should be on there. December 10th, 2 o'clock, Operations Committee, and that will be looking at the tax levy. And remember that we only have one school board meeting in December. That will be on Tuesday, December 15th. And we have a staff development curriculum committee meeting on Monday, December 14th at 3:45 in the afternoon. An update on enrollment. We have a new enrollment sheet, I think, that was distributed to you tonight. We're currently serving 1,700 students. We're just down one student from the last school board meeting. And compared to a year ago, at this same time, if you flip over, we had 1,696. So we're actually serving 4 more students today than we were 1 year ago today. And then one of the projects that we've been working on at the elementary, we've asked the elementary student council to talk to their students about renaming the elementary annex gym and renaming the main gym at the elementary school. And what I'm distributing to the board tonight are some possible name combinations. The way to read this is on the left-hand side are names that they've come up with to rename the annex gym, and on the right-hand side are names to rename the main gym of the elementary school. And what I'd like the board to do is to maybe take this home and do a little homework and maybe decide on which top 3 combinations you'd be interested in naming the gyms. You don't have to do this right tonight, but you can do it throughout the board meeting if you'd like. But the student council has been working on this, and I actually have a tally. The students at the elementary did vote on these, and I can share those with you after you folks decide on which of these names you would maybe consider. And the idea is that once we rename these gyms, we'll actually get signs, because when people, we do use the elementary gyms quite a bit, especially for the junior high sports and for practices, and when people come in from other communities, they come in and they want to know which gym to go to, and so this way we could actually name them and put signs up. And then the last update for the board tonight is the Staff Welfare Committee met this afternoon, and they've authorized a new position at the elementary school to fill out the rest of the school year starting in January, but they've approved a new position for a dean of students at the elementary school starting in early January. And I point that out tonight so that what we'll do is that we will update the job description for the dean of students at the elementary school, and then we will post the position, advertise for the position, take applications, do an interview process, and come up with a recommendation. And our hope is to have a recommendation to the school board by our school board meeting on December 15th. We just really feel the need at the elementary right now with the demographics of our elementary school that in addition to the social workers and the administrators and the nurse that we have, that there's a need to have a person at the elementary school full-time to serve as a dean of students. The community probably already knows that we have a full-time dean of students at the high school, but we have some issues that we need to get a handle on before the end of the school year, and so this position would be a position that would basically be a 1.5 year position, and then towards the end of the year we will analyze to see if there's a need for that position to continue.
But technically, we had a dean last year, and they took a leave of absence, and we hired someone, and they took a different job, so we were kind of left in the lurch there, so.
That's
Well, we
correct.
didn't we hire a social worker, or?
Yes.
We did hire something in the meantime, am I correct?
We did.
And so,
If you recall, Julie, last year we had a full-time dean of students and one full-time nurse and one full-time social worker. And we started the year this year with a full-time nurse and 2 full-time social workers. One who works with the preschool through 2nd grade students, and the other social worker works with students grade 3 through 6. And a social worker position is different than a dean of students. And a dean of students is much more of a disciplinarian, dealing with bus issues or issues that happen at recess or during passing time or at lunch or whenever things happen in the school. As social worker, we really want to make sure that when our children get through our elementary school, that they're ready to do high school work and they're ready to be good citizens.
I mean, that was part of, because we couldn't get a dean of students hired in that time frame, so we,
That's
we did
correct.
have a social worker, that we could put in that role to kind of, so there was a not just a body, but I mean, so it was helpful to the administration and the students and all too, so.
It has been helpful, but we still feel the need to,
Well, and I understand that, but I just didn't want anybody to think that, we had taken a cut with it and, we had done something else with the position
That is
to try
correct.
something else.
Yep. that's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Brown? All right, then we'll move to our financial business donations. Dan?
Yes, we have a couple in Appendix A and Appendix A1. First, in Appendix A, I'd introduce the following resolution and move its adoption. Whereas Fairmont 3M donated to Fairmont Elementary School a shipment of office and classroom supplies valued at $4,400. Be it resolved by the Fairmont Area School Board to gratefully accept the gift.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have Dan introducing the resolution and Nicole with the second, and we thank 3M for that donation. Any questions about that? And then we have to vote. Danielle?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nicole?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Rufus?
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. Thank you. Next one.
And we have another in Appendix A1. I also would introduce the following resolution and move for its adoption. Whereas the South Central Minnesota Gobblers Chapter donated $250 in support of the high school Phi-Ed archery program. Be it resolved by the Fairmont Area School Board to gratefully accept the gift.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. If, Dan introducing the resolution and Julie with the second. Any further discussion? You'll vote. Danielle?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nicole?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Rufus?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted, and we thank the South Central Minnesota Gobblers Chapter for their donation. Thanks, Dan. Next on the agenda are financial reports and bills, and Sue Nelson is here to talk about that. Good evening.
Tonight on the agenda, we have the approval of the wire transfers from November 6th through November 19th and the payment of the November 24th bills. So you should have the wire transfers. It's a very short list. There's only one item on it. We had $5,268 wired in from Child Care Resources for our Pathways to Early Learning Scholarship Program. And then on the register dated today, November 24th, just a few to bring to your attention. The second one listed for the United States Treasury. This is for our reinsurance fees for 2015. And as part of the new Affordable Care Act, we are required to file and pay our reinsurance fees, which is $44 per covered life. And then we're provided from South Central Service Co-op, where we have our insurance through with Blue Cross. They provide us with the covered lives 3 times throughout the year, and then the way to do that calculation. And then that was a wire that went out today to pay for that. Check number 57790 made out to Clifton Larson Allen. This is our final payment for our 14-15 audit that was presented to the board here a couple meetings ago. Check number 57817 made out to Michael Bettine Trucking. This was for just about 75 tons of ag lime for our baseball and softball fields. And then check number 57837 made out to the chip shop. This fall, PET did a fundraiser, and this is the payment for the product for that fundraiser. Do you have any questions on that register or the transfers? Julie and I did review the list prior to the board meeting.
Any questions for Sue on the report? It's pretty short tonight.
It is short.
If there are no questions, I would make a motion to approve the wire transfers for November 6, 2015 to November 19th, 2015, and payment of the November 24, 2015 bills.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rufus. I have a motion by Julie, second by Rufus to approve the financial report as presented. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then Sue will talk to us about the adopted budget, which is in your packet also.
Okay. Tonight on the agenda, as Diane mentioned, we have the approval of the 2015-2016 adopted budget. And each year, we do review the budget 3 times. In June, prior to the start of the school year, we'll have a preliminary budget. And then this time of year, after staff is in place for the school year, after our audited financial statement is presented and approved, and after employee negotiations, we have a budget, and that's this adopted budget. And then again in the spring, late spring, early summer, we review again, and we may bring to the board a new revised budget if needed. So you have Appendix B, which is the 15-16 adopted budget. In reviewing this budget, I'll at times compare it to the preliminary budget that was approved by the board on June 16th. The first thing to note is where it says beginning fund balance. That whole column, with the preliminary budget, those were our anticipated beginning fund balances. And now those have been updated to reflect our actual beginning fund balances, which are reflective of our audited financial statements at the end of the 14-15 school year. And then in the general fund, changes have been made to both the revenue and expenditure budgets. Bottom line is we are projecting to add about $210,000 more to the general fund unassigned fund balance than we projected at the with the preliminary budget. So we're looking to increase that unassigned fund balance by about $168,000, whereas with the preliminary budget, we're looking at going back about $40,000. Okay. That swing, there is a swing, and on the revenue side, the biggest reason for that swing is with our revenue for special education. During the 14-15 school year, our budget in that area was too low, so I've increased that revenue budget. And also on the revenue side, we are using 1,677 students served in our building for our revenue budget. And as Superintendent Brown mentioned, as of today, we're serving 1,700. So we go a little conservative on the revenue side and try to budget full exposure on the expenditure side. Our expenditures are up about $356,000 from the preliminary budget. There's a variety of reasons for that. Our teacher settlement was higher than we had projected with the preliminary budget. We're budgeting about $72,000 more in staff development, and those were just dollars that went into the assigned fund balance that hadn't been spent last year. We added a part-time SRO. The board approved partial funding for soccer and hockey. We have budgeted for a tuition reimbursement for staff so they may teach college in the school courses, and for staff to become appropriately licensed in special education. In addition, the QComp budget is about $30,000 higher than it was in the preliminary budget. There again for dollars that had not been spent last year. And we have increased our severance budget. So overall, we're projecting to end the year in the unassigned fund balance with $3,022,259. You'll recall that our policy is 1 month, but our goal is 2 months. This would bring us just under our goal by about $20,000. Okay. The total general fund revenues are $17,853,351. 14.1% of that is local dollars. 2.5% are federal dollars, and the balance, 83.4%, are dollars from the state of Minnesota. Our general fund expenditures are $18,246,152, and those do exceed our revenues by $392,000. However, in that unassigned area, we have revenues exceeding expenditures by $168,000. So why that difference is we're spending about $510,000 from some of our assigned fund balances where we have set aside money that was not spent in prior years. We put those into assigned balances, and those are in areas like literacy, staff development, technology, and curriculum. Okay. Do you have any questions on the general fund? Okay, then moving to food service, the adopted budget shows revenues exceeding expenditures by $11,632. Just a very slight $1,000 change from the preliminary budget. Something new this year at the elementary school is the fresh fruit and vegetable program. The elementary site was granted $20,100 for the current school year based on our free and reduced numbers. And so, starting on September 30th, that program started with our pre-K through second grade students. And the kitchen staff prepares about 450 portions each day of a fruit or vegetable. And then they're pre-portioned out and on trays, and each classroom receives those. And it's considered just a taste for the students, trying to expose them to something new. And the teachers then offer the students the products between like 1:30 and 2:45 in the afternoon. And then our food service director, Jackie LeMay, she will email teachers like an informational sheet on the product that they are being served that day. And we'll have some nutrition facts and a photo and some things like that. And I think Jackie will come to a future school board meeting and talk a little bit more about it.
So, Sue, does the grant cover total expenditure for that program?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. And each month, we have to submit what that is, and if we would go beyond that, we'd have to make a decision, are we going to continue or not? But we do believe, initially it was just going to be 3 days a week, and now it's 3 to 4, so we're believing we can get to the end of the school year. Okay. Any other questions on food service? Okay, then I can move to community service. We are showing some changes from the preliminary budget. We look to end the year with just over $11,600 in the CER and unassigned fund balance, just under $10,000 in adult basic ed, about $50,000 in ECFE, and about $45,000 in school readiness. During the 15-16 school year, we anticipate receiving about $59,000 for the Pathways 2 program for the early learning scholarships, and our learning readiness dollars from the state of Minnesota are also increased. So Michelle Rosen has been working to expand programming for school readiness for those students who do receive the Pathways scholarships with some of these additional funds. Okay, moving to the capital fund. Budgets here have been updated to reflect actual projects scheduled. We project in the 15-16 school year with about $911,000 in the fund balance. Of that, $800,000 is in restricted areas, that being health and safety and operating capital. And then you can see that we will have $102,000 left in the window settlement balance. And at this point in time, we do not have any plans for those funds. We did talk with Operations Committee, probably like in January or February, getting the Operations Committee together along with Dave Turnberg, our supervisor of Building and Grounds, and kind of looking at any projects that are needed, reviewing our long-term facilities maintenance plan, because those dollars will start in July. And then looking to see, does our plan look the way we want that to be? And then are there projects that the district has that those funds we cannot use those funds? So that one might, then we might come back to the board looking to budget those dollars. Okay, moving to debt service and trust and agency. Those budgets have changed just slightly. Debt service is the fund that we pay our principal and interest for our bonds, and trust and agency is for the Hunt Fund. And then we have student activity. Our revenues and expenditures there will vary every year due to the activities that those groups decide to do, and the budgets have been changed to reflect activity from the prior year. And we have revenues exceeding expenditures of about $1,700. In total, our revenues for all funds, $23,103,785. Expenditures, $23,441,725. So we do have our expenditures exceeding revenues overall at $322,000. But you'll remember in the general fund, we have budgeted about $510,000 coming from those assigned areas for curriculum, literacy, technology, staff development, those types of things. The Operations Committee did review this budget at their meeting last week, November 19th, and they do recommend approval. As always, there's unknowns in budgets. Kind of the biggest unknown on the revenue side is enrollment, and then the special education revenue. And then on the expenditure side, it can be special education as well. At this time, we don't have an estimate yet from Southern Plains for their current year expenditures. So, I just kind of work with that and we come up with a budget. But do you have any questions?
Any questions for Sue or Operations Committee? No? Great.
I would make a motion to approve the 2015-2016 adopted budget.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dan. I have a motion by Julie, second by Dan to approve the 2015-2016 adopted budget as presented in Appendix B. Any further discussion or questions?
Just thank you, Sue, and thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Superintendent Brown, for continuing to build the financial health of our district. And, you know, I'm sure we've all seen things swing around just as quickly the other way too, but it certainly is nice to have that a little bit of the reserve that we've always sought. And this is the first time, I think, since I've been on the board that we've been at that goal. So thank you.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is old business, and we have nothing to discuss there, so we'll move to new business, and there's some grants, Danielle.
Yeah, we have a couple grants. The first one, Fairmont Area Schools was awarded the following two grants from the Martin County Youth Foundation. $3,000 for the Agriculture Academy Greenhouse and $1,400 for two CER-sponsored events, After School Science Discovery Club and a family snowshoe event. And then we have the 2015-2016 World's Best Workforce.
No.
Oh, yeah, that's the next, okay. So I make a motion to approve the grants from Martin County Youth Foundation, $3,000 for the Agriculture Academy Greenhouse and $1,400 for the CER-sponsored After School Science Discovery Club and Family Snowshoe event.
All right, thank you, Danielle. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have a motion by Danielle, second by Nicole, to approve the acceptance of the grant from the Martin County Youth Foundation to the Agriculture Academy and to the CER. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the World's Best Workforce Plan. Joe?
Well, thank you, Diane. If you recall, last school board meeting, we had the school board approve the summary of the 2014-2015 World's Best Workforce. And we actually have posted that on our website, and we have emailed that to the Minnesota Department of Education. With that legislation that passed a couple of years ago, school districts are required to put together a new plan for the current school year. And this plan, interestingly enough, we don't actually send this plan to the Department of Ed. It's a working document that we'll use throughout the year to implement the 5 goals of the World's Best Workforce. But at the end of this year, we'll report again the summary of what we did. But real quickly, I'll go through these 5 goals. The first goal is school readiness. Last year, 75% of our kindergarten students were ready, and they met 80% of the kindergarten readiness skills. And this year, our goal is that 80% of the students will show mastery in 80% or more of the skills on our kindergarten readiness checklist. And you can read on page 2 all the different things that are being done in preschool to get our students ready for kindergarten. Pillar number 2 is also very important. That's a 3rd grade literacy goal. And the goal there is to have all of our students reading by the end of 3rd grade. And this year's incoming 3rd grade class is a very good group of kids. And they scored last year when they took the NWA test. 48% of them met or exceeded the proficiency predictor. And so we want to increase that by 5% each year. And so our goal is to have at least 53% of our 3rd graders be able to score proficient and increase their comprehension skills before the end of the school year. The 3rd pillar is to close the academic achievement gap among all the various demographic groups. And we show where we were on page 3, the actual results of all of our groups. Our free and reduced lunch students are Hispanic, special ed, English language learners, our Caucasians, and all students. And what we want to do is move each of those groups up at least 5% each year. The 4th goal is, of course, that we want all students to graduate. And one nice thing about Fairmont School District is that, remember, I always think about the 13 years that students spend in our school district, that they're practicing to get to that final graduation date when they are both career and college ready. And we do finish very strong. The goal statewide is to have 90% of all students graduate high school. Last year, 89.3% of our students graduated. And so we're right below that goal, but we want to get to the point where every student graduates. But I really feel very confident that we're going to exceed the 90%. I see our high school principals in the audience agreed with me on that. And then the final goal, goal number 5, is to have all students career and college ready. And this is really a challenging goal. In fact, I just left a superintendent's meeting in Blue Earth a few hours ago, and the 6 of us who are part of the Southern Plains Special Education Cooperative, we spent a lot of time talking about this because this is a challenging goal where we want all students not just to graduate, but we want every student to be both career and college ready. Because we really do expect that all students in this day and age, when they graduate high school, at some point in their life, they're going to have to go back and get additional training, either in a vocational school or a 4-year college or a 2-year school or a trade. But we really expect people to be learning all throughout the rest of their life. And so we want to make sure all of our kids are career and college ready, and our high school faculty and administration are working on that goal. And so we'll continue to tweak this throughout the year. And at the end of the year, of course, we'll come up with another summary. The very last page of the document, though, shows the number of students that are currently taking college in the schools classes. And the one class that we added to that is accounting. That's a new class that's being taught by Holly Christian. And she's teaching an accounting class. I think that's from Hennepin Community College. And we have 8 students taking that. They get 4 college credits each for a total of 32. But right now, we have 219 students taking a college class at Fairmont High School, and they potentially can earn 743 college credits. And we really want to thank our faculty that are trained to deliver these classes, and we want to really thank our students who are taking these college classes at Fairmont. I'd be glad to yield to any questions that the board might have.
Any questions for Superintendent Brown on the World's Best Workforce? Well, I'll offer the motion to approve the plan as presented for the 2015-16 school year. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead.
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have motion by Diane, second by Nicole to approve the 2015-16 World's Best Workforce Plan as a working document, and it's in Appendix C. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. Then next on our agenda is the PIE and Hunt grants, Nicole.
Yes, if you'll look at Appendix C1, you'll see the proposals for the 2015-16 school year PI Hunt grant. And this year there were 38 proposals that were received with requests totaling $51,888. The PI and Hunt grant dollars totaled $35,000. These dollars were used to fund 28 proposals in full or in part. And just for your information, 2 of the proposals that were not funded by those grants were funded through the gifted and talented dollars, and 7 with district dollars from appropriate budgets. And 2 of the proposals received no funding. With that, I move to approve the PI Hunt grant funds for the 2015-16 school year.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Julie. I have a motion by Nicole, second by Julie to approve the allocation of the PIE, which is Partners in Education, and the Hunt grant funds for the 15-16 school year. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, then we'll move along to personnel medical leave. Nicole?
Yes, Michelle Grotti is requesting medical leave beginning 11/30/2015 through 12/22/2015. With that, I move to approve this medical leave request.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Danielle. I have a motion by Nicole, second by Danielle to approve the medical leave request from Michelle Grotti beginning on November 30th and through December 22nd. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then the next item is the principal's contract, and staff welfare has met with the Principals Association, and we have a settlement with them also. It's in Appendix D in your packet. I'll just go through it. It's a 2-year contract. We discussed some family leave language that has been has not been in their contract, but is in every other contract in the district. So we will be adding that, and that just identifies funeral leaves and different family emergencies that are granted in others' contracts. So we added that. Then we have a salary change, and most of the principals, 3 of the principals, are moving on the salary schedule, so they're making changes in their compensation. But the base is going to be increased by $1,000 for this school year, but that comes through a reduction in their health insurance program, and then next year it will be increased by $500 also through that reduction in the health insurance contribution. So all in all, it worked out very well for everybody, and they were happy with that proposal, and staff welfare is recommending that we approve it. And with that, I will offer the motion to approve the 2-year contract for the principals for the 15-16, 16-17 school years. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rufus. Motion by Diane, second by Rufus to approve the principal's contract. Any further discussion or comments on that? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next thing is employment, Rufus.
Jim Davison has recommended that Michelle Hernus be hired as a long-term substitute teacher in Michelle Agradi's 5th grade class. While Michelle is on medical leave, Michelle Agradi holds a master's degree in elementary education from the University of Wisconsin River Falls. Her previous work experience includes 10 years as a computer programmer. Most recently, she has been substitute teaching in our buildings. I make a motion to approve the employment of Michelle Hernus as a long-term substitute elementary teacher effective November 30th through December 22nd, or until the regular teacher returns at a salary of BA Step 1.
Thank you, Rufus. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. So I have the motion by Rufus and second by Julie to exchange one Michelle for another Michelle. So Michelle Grady is on medical leave, and Michelle Hernus will be taking her place. So any further discussion on that one? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Then we'll move to the board committee reports and principal negotiations. We just covered our whole discussion with them was centered on their contract, and we've approved that, so that's a done deal. Then the next item is the pre-K2 staff and board meeting, which was held on November 17th. Nicole?
Yes, Diana, I attended the staff meeting. The first topic of discussion was how much they appreciate the alignment with the principals now with an E2 principal and a 3-6 principal. They feel like the principals are really able to meet their needs for their individual learning areas better that way. There was a brief discussion about the calendar that we have this year, the school calendar. The E2 teachers felt like it really that it favored somewhat the high school, junior high school schedule more than it reflected their needs, and they are just kind of discussing among themselves what they might need to propose next year to better reflect their needs. They talked about the breakfast. This year, did it start last year towards the end of the year? I think it did, that they have hot breakfast once a week. And this year they are continuing that, and how much they really enjoy that. They said almost all of the kids, when it's the hot breakfast day, they eat the hot breakfast. They also talked about, they call it the FFV program, which Sue talked about with the grant, the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, and how fun it is to see the students try things that they've never heard of. Some of them I had never heard of. And I think that day, the day that we were there, they had pomegranates. And how fun it was for the kids to try pomegranates and, all these
Red peppers.
kohlrabi, just all sorts of,
Jicama.
Yeah.
Oh, there were lots of things there, yeah.
And they are so inquisitive, and most of them are very willing to try it. If they're not, once they see their friends trying it, they're willing to try it as well. So it's a fun program and also encourages nutrition with our E2 program. They talked about, as we discussed tonight, the lack of a dean of students, how much having that position and that presence in the building is missed, and that the administrative staff is really not able to deal with those things that they are supposed to be handling and taking care of because they are busy doing what a dean would otherwise do. And also that disruptions in the classroom are not being handled maybe in the timely manner that they would like to, because it all just kind of domino effects, and it affects the way that they're able to teach in their classroom. And so that they really, really need dean of students. In fact, that was probably the majority of our discussion. I think at least 70% of our time was spent discussing the need for a dean of students. And across the board, they all really supported that and felt that it was a necessary, very necessary position to maintain.
And the other thing on that is that there's no male role models down there, and
Yeah.
so they need some help with that to be a positive role model. They're all the young students who don't have male role models, and they don't see that, so that was one of their concerns too.
There's not one male employee on the E2 side except for a lone student teacher.
Yeah.
So that the need that they feel like they need to have more of a male presence on their side of the building. Technology, they talked about the need for programs for K2 that are not web-based. I wouldn't even have thought of that, but all of these learning programs that are coming out are all web-based because they're individualized and they cater to each individual student. And having a kindergarten student go in and log in and have a password would take up almost the entire time for some of those students when they should be working on the program, just to get them to actually log in and into an individual program. And so the need to actually kind of go back to programs as opposed to web-based learning opportunities. They talked about, we also had a brief discussion about their reflections on the October 12th incident that we had, and they pretty much echoed what we'd heard before. It seems that in the E2 side that because those kids don't have cell phones, most of the kids didn't have a clue what was going on, and the kids were not worried except the kids that got pulled out of class because it wasn't their regular schedule, and they were a little concerned about, why am I having to leave? My mom didn't tell me I'm supposed to leave today. So there was a little bit of that from the kids, but that otherwise they felt like.
And the kids who stayed wanted to know why people were leaving, and they go, well, they must have a lot of appointments today, because they couldn't create a fear situation for that either. So.
Yep. And it was a very productive meeting. We had discussed some very good discussions, and I was very appreciative for this, that the staff was there.
Yep, it was very fun to visit with them. Yeah. Any questions about the pre-K2 staff meeting? All right, then Operations Committee meeting, Dan?
The entirety of our meeting on November 19th was about the budget that we looked at here tonight. That was the only topic that we had on our schedule that day.
All right, thanks, Dan. How about Southern Plains Board meeting, Julie?
Yeah, we met last night, and just like we have here, we had a report of the auditor's report and had a good report at the end of the year of the budget. We also accepted some resignations. Along with that, then there's always hirings. There are a couple positions that still need to be hired within the Southern Plains, but otherwise we're looking at being almost fully staffed. Some leave of absences coming up. As with a younger staff, you have the opportunity that we have more children being delivered in that, so there's quite a few of leaves being for that. A lane change for a staff member. And then we did the budget like we did tonight here, revised the budget. There was a motion, a motion for a restrictive procedures plan that was followed through. And then the other big thing that we really had, we did do some discussion on, with the Southern Plains, they've consolidated all their programming, or most of the programming, into the Winnebago Elementary School. And we're leasing that from the Blue Earth Schools District. And part of that, we knew that going in, that there's always a chance of some things going wrong. And part of that lease agreement, was that if something happened within the building, we would have to maintain that or replace. Well, of course, now one of the boilers went down. And so then Sarah had gotten some bids, and so we have made a motion to replace one of the boilers. And with that would be the replacement will come out of our operating funds. And then should we decide to, change programming place again, there is a language that will be put in place that, being we've purchased this boiler, that, there'd be some reimbursement or something for it. But really is no need. I mean, I have all of my papers here. I don't remember the exact amounts, but it was like $20-some thousand to repair it. You'd still have an old boiler, but, then how long would that last? How long would the repairs, be good for? We're right in the beginning of a winter. We're not sure what the winter's going to do yet. So we did make a motion then to approve purchasing a brand new boiler, going with a dual fuel, with the idea that natural gas is available in Winnebago, and that there would be a discount with that dual fuel ability in that. So it would save us some money in the long run that way. So, but otherwise, that was about it. But it was a long meeting last night. We went a lot of discussion, with the budget and everything else that we had. So,
And I think the total cost for that boiler is $98,000.
well, and then we're getting some.
We're going
to get some other bids too, but we just finally went with kind of a general, whatever the best bid would be, but to go with a dual fuel, and whatever our best. But I think one of the highest ones was like 98,000,
Right.
I think. But
And
yeah,
I learned today that the boiler that's in there now was installed in 1923. So they got some pretty good use out of it.
And even if you start repairing it for the 20,000, something comes up, you might not be able to do that either.
you're right.
You don't know.
Right.
till
And
you
they
get
will
one.
be with that, to be able to still, like I said, there's more than one boiler, so they'll be able to heat the school while that's being replaced. So the children will, they are kind of complaining that it's not as warm, but that may be too, just the change of the season as well. We've had a very unseasonably warm fall, early winter here, and so, it's just kind of some of that getting used to that, and sometimes we don't always dress like it's winter either. So, but they're just, we'll be able to at least have school in session all the time, so I won't have to close the building at all while they do those repairs or the replacements. So,
Any other questions for Julie? All right, Staff Welfare Committee meeting, Nicole?
Was
That we
that
just
me?
had?
That we just had?
Yeah, what did we talk about?
Okay, what did we talk about? We talked about the principal's contract, and we talked about the need for a dean of students.
Yep, that was it. Yep.
you're
Any-
up to date then.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Anything else that needs to come before the board? Well, since I just want to publicly congratulate all the students and the teachers and staff that produced the musical. It was so fun to go to that. It was amazing. They put a lot of work into it, and it was very, very, very fun. So congratulations to everyone who worked on that, and those kids that were here, they did a fabulous job with their parts. It was very, very fun.
It was very enjoyable.
Very enjoyable. And then last night I went to the marching band concert, and that was also very, boy, they sure do a great job having a marching band concert in the PAC. There's batons twirling, there's flags flying, there's rifles flying, and there's people everywhere. And it was 7 through 12, and that was very cool. And so then, if you're looking for something to do, the orchestra concert's coming up. I think it's December 7th, and that is always very entertaining. And the choir concert, I think that's December 14th. So lots of events coming up, and then, of course, basketball and wrestling and hockey and all of those sports are in full swing now, too. So there's plenty of events to do, and if you need to you're having a board evening, you just go to Fairmont Community Calendar, and there's all kinds of things listed on there, and all the school events are on there, as well as whatever is happening at CER has all their events on it, and other entities in the city that have things going on, or even in the county. So if you need something to do, just check that out.
Yeah, there's really no excuse to be bored.
No,
Really, I
there's
mean, there's lots of
things
opportunities.
going
It's
on.
just what you want to go to and get involved with,
Yep,
so.
yep. And it's, the school things are, the entertainment is excellent and for a reasonable price too. It's just,
Well, I think
the
of
band
going
concert
to
was zero.
the
Yeah.
concert, going to the play, the musical, I mean, for $7, whatever it was, you know, you take on an entertainment like that at, you know, maybe the college level or even the professional level, you're paying much, much more, plus the driving, plus, you know, the costs of everything else. But it was just, for your time, it was just very well
was-
spent.
it
And
was
just, you were
very, very good.
entertained immensely.
Yeah. Mhm. Anything else? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have a motion by Dan, second by Nicole, to approve adjourning the school board meeting at 6:09 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Oh, happy Thanksgiving.
Excellent.